Welcome to Unlock the Code, the ultimate autism podcast. We help you unlock the mysteries of autism so your child can be successful in all areas of his life. With your host, the internationally acclaimed author, speaker, and autism and behavior expert, the CEO of Hope Education Services, Jessica Likewise.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Likewise, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. I'm passionate about helping families that are affected by autism to learn how to help your children lead fulfilling and meaningful lives. One of the things that parents are most concerned about is what's going to happen to their child when they grow up. Are they going to be able to live independently? Are they going to be able to create fulfilling and rich and meaningful experiences that every parent wants to have for their children? Now, if you're listening to this podcast, if you've listened to any of my YouTube trainings, you know that I spend a lot of time creating different resources that families can use to help their children learn, to help their children succeed, and help their children grow. I partner with experts in all areas to make sure your child is covered in whether it's nutritionally or whether or not it's an occupational therapist or physical therapist, to make sure every aspect of your child's development is taken care of. But what I also want to do for the very first time on this show is bring an adult with autism who's created an exceptional life to give you the inspiration and courage to know that your child has every capability of creating an amazing life. So many of you who listen to this podcast don't know, in my personal life, I'm a runner. And I got into running like most people when I had a challenge in my life. And I started running marathons and ultra marathons. And I can tell you that it is no small feat. You know, it says that the 10% of people who are 90% of people want to run a marathon in their lifetime, but only 10% of people ever do it. And then 10% of that 10% wind up running it again. And I'm going to bring someone on the show who has a diagnosis of autism, went on to create an amazing life, become a public speaker, to become an inspiration and a beacon for her community, and also to be a runner. This person has run an ultra marathon, which if you don't know what an ultra marathon is, it means you're running more than the distance of a marathon. This person ran for 24 straight hours. I have done that myself, and I can tell you it's an incredible accomplishment. And she's also run 10 full marathons, that's 26.2 miles, and 43 half marathons. So I have a long way to go to catch up to this person in half marathons. But even more than that, she generously was willing to come onto this podcast today to talk to parents a little bit about how they can really help their children and really show what's possible even with a diagnosis of autism. I'm a big believer that every child with autism can be successful and that there's greatness in every single person and that every single person has the capability of creating an amazing life and leaving an amazing legacy. And there's no one better than Carla Simon to show what an example of that is and what that means. So, Carla, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Jessica.
So, Carla, you got a diagnosis of autism when you were a young child. Now, obviously, as an adult, you've come really, really far. Do you remember what it was like as a child having autism, and what were some of the things that you experienced as a child?
Oh, I used to, when I was a little kid, I used to run off on my mom, or even there was one time where I almost tried to stick something up her eye when she was trying to sleep, kind of behavior issues that a lot of people with autism face. And I used to get stared at and get into fight with kids, is what I remember.
So bullying, that was a big issue for you as a child?
Yes.
Yeah, and do you still have that as an issue today, or have you found really meaningful friendships and ways to create great relationships today?
Well, I had some friendships as a kid, but I have a lot more now, but I still sometimes get stares or people wondering what I'm looking at. I still sometimes experience it as an adult or even where I work.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the fact that you do work independently, right, and you're able to create an income and create a budget. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yes, I currently work at Walmart as a pickup tower associate, so I help pick up packages and give them to people that come into the store that order online, mostly general items.
And what was it like for you to get to that point where you can go from being a child with behavior challenges to now being able to work, being able to obviously have conversations and all of the different things that come with that?
Well, it took years, and it was really a struggle. I had to turn in lots of resumes and apply online. I got frustrated with all the denials I got, and finally I found something I really enjoy and love, and that's being able to work with people and socialize, which is something I never used to like to be able to do. I used to be really shy.
You know, a lot of people, they have this misconception that people with autism don't like other people or aren't interested in other people or don't know what it means to have a relationship or be in a relationship because of some of the struggles of language and making eye contact. So can you clear up and clarify for anyone listening to this show, you know, that people with autism, they might struggle with relationships, but that doesn't mean they don't want to be in relationships?
Yeah, because I've met so many different people through my lifetime, whether it be competing in Special Olympics or in school. There's so many different forms of autism. No person with autism is alike. I've found from my experience myself and through meeting others, that's what I've been able to realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And so autism is a spectrum disorder, right? And even now, and if you're listening to the show and you're a parent, you know that there's different classifications of autism. There's different levels of autism. They used to call them PDD, NOS, and Asperger's and autistic disorder, and those are no longer words that are being used in the diagnosis, but there's still like you said, Carla, every child's different, and there's a large variety of different types of autism. What are some of the things that, as a child, you know, was difficult for you in terms of creating friendships and relationships?
Well, I had a hard time in school with getting into group activities, like when people would do stuff at homework and classwork stuff in groups. I usually had to have a teacher find me somebody to be with because I didn't know who to go with, and I was shy and was too afraid to ask. It was one of my social activity issues.
Yeah, and now obviously you're doing really well. Running, a lot of people think running is a solo sport, and to a degree it is, but certainly when you're doing it, I know we both have run with some of the same running groups and done series races. When you're doing ultra marathons and marathons, you really become like family with these groups that you're running with, and you really develop very strong relationships. It kind of says like it takes a village to raise a child. Oftentimes people are partnering together and uplifting and inspiring each other. And do you have an easier time with that today?
Yes, I do. I had a lot of mentors through the running community that helped support me to be able to realize that I had a lot of friends and not be shy to ask people. And that running actually helped me socially be able to connect with people more.
Yeah, I found like a very similar experience for me, that I was surprised to find out how many friendships I made and really strong relationships I made with other people when I was running. So what therapies along the way did you have as a child, as a young adult, that got you to where you are today?
Well, I had a lot of speech therapy, some physical therapy. I know my stepdad and mom worked a lot with me. I know my stepdad taught me how to read, and I had a lot of special education teachers that worked with me out in the community to help me be better too, and give me some ways to cope, like going for walks. I remember going for walks in school when I would have meltdowns, which kind of helped me cope with. Like I had a hard time with fire drills and had a sensitivity to that in school. I do remember that too, and that's what helped me be able to cope with meltdowns from that.
Yeah, and on that note, I have a question for you, Carla. A lot of times people look at children with autism and they're crying and they think, okay, just a bad kid, or they just need to be spanked, or, you know, and obviously we don't condone that. But sometimes there's a difference between having a tantrum and being non-compliant and being naughty versus having a meltdown because you're overloaded from too much sensory stimulation. So what is it for you? What is it like in your words, in your own perspective, to have a meltdown? What does that mean to you? What happens in your body, and what are you experiencing, or what did you experience? We haven't discussed that, and I don't know if you still have at times where you get sensory overloads or meltdowns today, but what was that like for you, and what's going on in your head and your body when you're experiencing that?
Well, I remember my ears hurting, and I get frustrated, and especially more after meltdowns too, because I'm so high functioning. I realize later on that I've had them, and I mean, didn't know how to cope then, but I mean, I try to explain to people what causes them and maybe ways to prevent them. For me, that's how it works for me to be able to, so it doesn't. Sometimes they won't happen if people know how to control them.
And what are some things, in case parents are listening to this and wondering how they can help their children to avoid a meltdown? And obviously everybody's different, so what worked for you may not work for their children, but what worked for you may work for their children, and their children may not be able to tell them what they need. So what are some of the things for you that helped you to avoid having meltdowns and still helps you today to avoid meltdowns?
Well, I tell people, since I can communicate, not everybody can, but one of the issues for people with autism is trouble with changes. For me, I like having my routine the same. If you change my routine without warning, that causes me to have meltdowns. And I know it's the same for a lot of people with autism. They can't get used to change, but they need to be warned about those changes before somebody brings them upon them.
Yeah, that's certainly something that I know I've seen a lot of people talk about. So now let's talk a little bit about some of your running accomplishments and some of your accomplishments with Special Olympics. And we brought on this show, one of the first things we talked about is parents wondering, are their children going to be able to do anything great in their lives? Are they going to be able to create fulfilling lives? And tell us a little bit about how you started running, some of your accomplishments running. And this is a time I want you to toot your own horn. I really want to highlight the amazing things you've done, because Carla, you've done a lot of things in your lifetime that the majority of people will never do, and it truly should be celebrated.
Yeah, well, in 2013, before my mom had passed away, I went to the Special Olympics, national tournament for a volleyball tournament, and so it was even started way before I started running, and I got into competitions. I've been competing in Special Olympics for about 11 years, and that's really also helped me socially. And right after my mom died, that's what really convinced me to start running more, because right before she died, I had found out I got chosen for the Special Olympics USA Games in New Jersey for track and field. So I knew I had to get fit, and after my mom died, that really convinced me I needed to get out more. So I started walking more, and then walking turned into more than that. And then I started running, joined the Special Olympics running club, and that's where I met some mentors to help me convince me that I could do half marathons and longer distances someday. So I trained, and then when I went to the Special Olympics USA Games in 2014, I trained so hard enough that I ended up winning a gold, 2 silvers, and a 5th place ribbon in New Jersey for Team Arizona. And right after that, I still kept training because I was like, I could do more than that. And I met a Special Olympics coach that helped mentor me to pace me in my first half marathon at Rock and Roll San Diego in 2015. And then just after that, meeting all the people for the running community convinced me I should keep doing this because I'm making a lot of friends. And I even did the World Games half marathon in 2015 too, a couple of months after doing my first half. And so I got to get a unified gold medal there. And after that too, for the running community, I was able to meet another person to help me pace me in my first marathon in 2017. And so I ended up finishing that in like 6:50 for my first full marathon. And since then, I've just kept running, and it added up. And I'm going to continue to do it because it makes my life so much positive.
Yeah, Carla, we have a very similar story of how we got into running. So I actually also started running in 2015 for the first time. And it took me 18 months to run my first marathon like you. I ran about a dozen half marathons in that first year. And then I wound up running 30 marathons in the next year. And I actually wound up running 30 marathons in honor of turning 30. I did my 30th marathon after doing 10 marathons in 8 states with mainly marathons. I think you run with the same group. I finished my 30th marathon on my 30th birthday. And, it gets addicting, doesn't it, Carla? Once you start running, you just want to keep going and then push that distance. And then it's the 50K and the 50 miles and the 40 miles and the 24 hours and the 12 hours. And you keep going and going and going. But it takes a special person to really persevere through that and continue to work through those challenges. What quality do you have that you think was the most helpful in getting you to where you are today, and especially when it comes to your running accomplishments?
Yeah, I think because I'm so determined and motivated, and I've met other people that helped inspire and motivate me too. There's this one girl I met at World Games in 2015 that has a more severe autism than me, whose goal is to run in all 50 states, and that's what motivated me to say maybe because I've already done Arizona and California, I can continue to do the 50 states. So that's another one of my goals that I want to do is run in all 50 states.
Awesome. Well, I live in New Jersey, and if you ever want to come this way, you are welcome to stay with me and to run I will run with you. We can run a marathon together in New Jersey, and I'm sure we can find one also in New York or Pennsylvania or Connecticut. We can do two in a weekend. Get them out of the way.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. So that is your goal ultimately, to run a 50 one marathon in each state.
Yeah, I've run, well, if you count half marathons and marathons, I'm part of the 50-state club, so I'm going for an endurance challenge, too. I've already ran in 8 states.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're right about at the same place. I'm also part of that 50 states club, and I'd have to count how many. I think I've done 11 or 12 states now. But you have me definitely beat in half marathon, so I have a while to catch up to you.
You'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get there together. So, like I said, I just really wanted to highlight some of the amazing things that you've done, some of your accomplishments, because so many parents they are so concerned about their children. And as a teacher, I can give parent advice on how to help their children be most successful. But sometimes it takes someone who's been successful, who's been where their children are, in order to show them that their child can have that success. Carla, what would you say to a parent whose child was just diagnosed with autism, who is just terrified for what their life is going to look like?
Don't worry. Work with your kids. They can get far. They're just like anybody else. We're all normal. No, there's no such thing as a disability. We all have abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does autism mean to you, Carla?
It means we're different, but we're not any less than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you could wish everybody who you met knew one thing about autism and about how to make sure you feel like you are like everyone else and included in everything, what would that one thing you wanted everyone to know be?
That anybody can achieve their goals if they work at it, and that we should never give up on one another.
That's really beautiful. And you are such an inspiration to me, Carla. I'm so grateful that you came onto the show and that you are able to inspire the community of our parents who are really listening in. And I know so many people are going to be touched by your story and really get excited to see your accomplishments. If anyone wanted to connect with you, how could we find you? I know on Facebook, is that the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, Facebook, social media. I'm on Instagram, too.
Okay, and what's your handle on Instagram?
I think it's WISC Lady 1987.
Okay, beautiful. So I know a lot of people are definitely going to want to be following your story, and I know I already am connected to you on Facebook. I am just learning Instagram, but once I'll get on there too, and I am definitely going to be looking forward to seeing the picture of you crossing the finish line on your 50th state.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be a few more years, but I'll get there.
Yeah, me too. It's going to take me a few years too, but absolutely, I know that it's definitely going to be.
I usually do 4 or 5 states a year at the most. So.
Well, hey, you know what? So maybe by 40, maybe we'll both do. I think we're only a few months apart in our birthday, so maybe we'll both do it by our 40th.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
That would be wonderful. So. Carla, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to chat with me, and it's just really such an honor.
Anytime, any way I can help anybody else, I'll do it.
Absolutely. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about helping families and about helping to inspire people. So if you are listening to this show and you want more resources, check out parenttrainingvideos.com. That's the YouTube channel. You'll find more podcasts like these. You'll find information on how you can help your child learn and be successful and grow. And also check out hopeeducationservices.com. That's my website. I have lots of free resources in there. You can also get on our email list on that site. I often am consulting for major television networks. I'm often writing for major journals and periodicals. So there's a lot of information and things that I write that go out to my news list, my email list, that I can't actually post publicly. So if you want to make sure you never miss anything, make sure you get on that list. So just go to hopeeducationservices.com. Thank you again so much, Carla, for being on the show. It's been such an honor. And thank you for everyone who tuned in and listened today.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for having me.
Absolutely. Well, have an amazing night, and I look forward to seeing you, Carla, soon, and I look forward to connecting with everyone on social media.
Thanks. You have a good night, too. Bye.
This has been another great episode of Unlock the Code. Unlock the Code is a division of Hope Education Services, one of the world's leading companies where parents can learn about autism online. For even more great content, head over to hopeeducationservices.com today and join our list so we can send you our VIP content and you never miss anything that can help your child succeed. Love our podcast? We would love a 5-star rating on iTunes and Podomatic. Thank you for allowing us to help you unlock the code of autism. You are not on this journey alone. Together, we're going to make a great team.